Hey guys, this is Becca and this is video 11 of 2018. This week I finished the 250 cylinder challenge and I have to say I'm not totally sold on it. I know this is probably surprising because I did the 250 box challenge and I thought it was really helpful. I thought it was a great way to kind of like get going in my perspective studies and start to form a sort of mental model of shapes in space. And I felt like that was a really good use of my time. I'm not really convinced about the cylinder challenge. I kind of feel like my cylinders might have actually gotten worse, which is sort of disturbing. I don't know, you guys can be the judge of that. Have a look. If you see improvement, let me know. I'm always happy when there's improvement that I don't see, but I really felt like this challenge wasn't quite as good as the box challenge. One thing I wanted to talk about was how I assess whether something is a helpful exercise or not. And just noting the fact that when you are trying to teach yourself from various resources, it's really important to sit down and take the time to say, was this a helpful exercise? Why did this help me? What about this wasn't particularly effective? And it seems super obvious, but that's not really how we're taught in school. In school, you know, you have a teacher and it's top down. They say, this is how you're gonna learn French. And then you do all these worksheets or listenings or translations, but you're told how, you're taught how you're supposed to learn. So when you're doing this on your own, you have the opportunity, but also the responsibility and ownership of your own training. So it behooves you to take the time and really think about whether or not something you're doing is really helping you get where you want to go. So that being said, I was giving some thought to this because as I'm going through, I'm trying to figure out, am I understanding things better? Am I not? Am I not trying hard enough? Am I dumb? I don't think I'm dumb. I don't think I'm dumb. And I do think I'm trying pretty hard. So a lot of times you can rule out, you're like, well, maybe I'm just not focused today, or maybe this is just too early for me. But for this particular exercise, I had a few things that I think might have been part of the problem. Number one, unlike the box challenge, I couldn't figure out how to reverse engineer the cylinder into a box to correct it, if that makes sense. So with the box, you do the box, and if it was wrong, you could correct it and you'd know really fast why it was wrong. With the cylinder, since I couldn't figure out how the ellipse fit inside of the, it's not a box, skewed box. Oh God, the words, Becca. I couldn't figure out if what I was drawing was correct or not. So if you don't know that you're making mistakes, you can't correct them. So I think that's kind of a little bit problematic. The second thing was I couldn't figure out how to draw a perfect square in space. So when you do the 250 box challenge, you're doing all kinds of boxes, like long boxes, short boxes, fat boxes, skinny boxes, but I didn't know how to make a shape that represented a perfect square in space, because for a cylinder, it's a perfect circle, so you have to have a perfect square on one of the sides. So that was one little challenge that I kept running into, that I put down what I thought was a perfect square, and then it would end up with these like weird kind of like very lumpy looking cylinders that were obviously not actual cylinders. They were mushy cylinders. And lastly, I don't know if I just have naturally really bad dexterity, but my ellipses are just so bad. And in this exercise, especially if you're drawing from the box, you are drawing so many lines and there's a lot of opportunities for you to make errors that have basically cascading effects down the way. So if one of your lines is wrong in your box, it's gonna make the center line wrong, it's gonna make both of your ellipses wrong, and then by the end, you like can't even figure out like what the heck happened and like where you are in life and how you got to the place that you are at that moment. Yeah. So there's just, you know, and it might just be that I wasn't ready for this exercise or that I just didn't get it, because as I've said 5 bazillion times, I'm not the best at understanding perspective. This has been one of my weaknesses for a really long time. So it is quite possible that it is a user error problem here. But I would be really interested to hear what your guys' experience have been with it. Did you try it? Did you find something else specifically about cylinders that you thought was really helpful? Not just perspective in general, but like learning cylinders in space. Let me know what you think and what you've done, and if you catch anything in my drawings that, you know, says something to you, I guess, or explains some of my problems here. Let me know. I'm always really happy for feedback. I will be jumping back to the DrawABox lesson 2 to finish the intersecting shapes, which I do think the cylinder challenge is good in that you are practicing drawing ellipses, a lot of them. And obviously you're getting some general understanding of how these shapes work in space. So hopefully it will help me with the rest of lesson 2. Wow, that was a very long video. On to the drawings.